Welcome back to New York Wedding Jam, the podcast for modern couples. I am your host, Martine Dardignac, and I'm joined by my co-host, Jason Alicia. Jason, how's it going?
I'm doing well, Martine. What's going on with you?
Oh, I can't complain. I'm trying to get prepped for a couple of weddings. I'm reading a series. They just dropped one of the new books for the series that I'm excited about. But
What
besides
series
that,
is that?
I what is it called? Flesh and Fire. Flesh and Fire.
I've never heard of it.
Yeah, it's a fun one. It's a fun one. Definitely entertaining. The only problem was like I read the whole first batch of the series like in a week last year when I was off, but each book is like 600 pages. And so then I couldn't remember when the new book dropped what I had read. So like now I'm rereading it so that I can get to the fourth book.
Okay. All right. I do that with Game of Thrones episodes. Like I'm
You gotta go back
rewatching the
and get the
season.
detail. Yeah, all of the fantasy novels are like that, because like you gotta kind of get all the details back in and the names and the it's important. It's important detail that have to go into it. So, how about yourself, Jason? How's everything going?
Good. I was in Florida last week, taking care of some family business. It started out to be a vacation, but it wound up being like vacation slash family business type of thing.
Gotcha.
But part of why I was down there was to see my sister, and she's getting married in a couple of months, and she still has not worked out a lot of the details, or some of the details of the wedding. So we were talking, and the topic of bar came up,
Uh,
alcohol, open bar. And so we started talking about our family's drinking habits and our extended family's drinking habits and friends' drinking habits. So this whole thing was just like to open bar or not to open bar.
Got you. I think it comes up a lot, honestly. In the New York area, I would say most venues, if you're doing like a full service venue, just offer open bar. But if you're not at a full service venue and you're trying to decide if you should have an open bar or not, that one it definitely is a topic that I've seen come up for many people. And I don't know, everybody likes the concept of the open bar, but I don't know that how many people actually make the most use of it, as things are actually in play. Are people drinking so much that you really need to pay for unlimited alcohol? Now, if you don't have any alcohol, I would say you're probably going to have some fairly upset guests in most cases. I've done a couple of dry weddings for, religious or personal reasons that have come up, but most of the time people want the alcohol there for the wedding. And like I can understand people wanting sort of an open bar if it's an option, because then you can just get whatever you want, right? But is the expense of it really fundamentally necessary? And I guess that really comes down to, like you said, like drinking habits of your friends and family and what you know about them. Because if you can get away with less, it'll save you some dollars, but you don't want to ruin the experience for everybody either.
So are there only two options? So this is a good question for a planner to those couples that are out there. Are there only two options? Is it just open bar or cash bar? Or is there some type of hybrid in between option that a moderate drinking crowd would be okay with?
Right. So I never suggest a cash bar. You don't want. These are your guests. They've been invited. You are like the experience is something that like having to pull out the cash is just not okay from an etiquette perspective. The other options are just like if you don't want an open bar, you can do like beer, wine, soda, for example. I've seen people do beer, wine, soda plus like a specialty cocktail. Like a cocktail that the couple really likes, and they add that one as a specialty if they'd like, as opposed to a full open bar where people can just kind of select whatever they want. So that's the other option that might be worth considering, is just kind of doing like the beer, wine, soda, as opposed to full open bar, all the liquor, you can get whatever you want. Uh, if you're going to do something more limited, you should still offer something. Like the cash bar, I don't think ever works. And nobody is happy about that. I don't think I've had any of my clients do it, but I've been a guest at a wedding where a cash bar has happened, and it's a little rough. Like I get it, money's money, but it's also, like I said, it's also about the experience of what's happening with your guests, and especially if you're not telling them that it's a cash bar. A lot of people at this point don't even carry the cash around. You know what I mean? And so like now we're standing at a bar trying to find our credit cards, to try and pay for the drink. It's almost not worth it.
Yeah, I would say I completely forgot about that beer, wine, and soda option. Or was it beer, wine, and
Yeah, beer, wine, soda. But
beer,
yeah,
wine,
beer, wine,
soda?
and like a specialty cocktail. Sometimes people will add to that. So typically, the package I think looks like beer, wine, soda. Oh, did you want to add a signature drink? And then you can add that on top of the beer, wine, soda package. So sometimes people do that. If you're bringing in the alcohol yourself, a lot of times they'll have you bring in your own specialty cocktail mix. You can't serve it, obviously. Like that needs to be a bartender. But for the most part, like if you want to do it, like they'll allow you to bring in like a specialty cocktail, or they'll mix it for you, depending
Like
on what
something
your
that has
preference is.
liquor, like a margarita
Correct.
or something like that.
Correct. You know.
Okay. I completely forgot about this option because when I got married, we also had the beer, wine, and soda option. We did not have an open bar. Um, but and so funny, even with that option, we wound up taking home a ton of
Yeah.
beer and wine. And
Right.
we got married in October, so we had like 15 six-packs remaining of Oktoberfest, which I love. And then we
Hey,
had like
listen. At least you got to enjoy it,
I
right?
did. I enjoyed that. I'm not a big alcohol consumer in general, but I do love Oktoberfest. I probably drink more in October than anything else when it comes to beer.
Gotcha.
We also had like 50, 10 or 12 bottles of white wine and 10 and 12 bottles of red wine or some type of blend. And so probably had about 20 something bottles of wine and about 15 six packs of beer after the wedding. So getting that back to our apartment was crazy, but we enjoyed it for the next probably 2 years. That's how long it lasted. Maybe a year and a half.
Got you,
Yeah.
got you. Yeah, and I mean, I think that's the thing. Like, a lot of people do find that. Typically speaking, when I've seen people like have to get alcohol, like if you don't have a full service venue and you're bringing in the alcohol, almost positively everybody leaves with a lot of the alcohol they've bought in, and that's one of the reasons that I'm saying that the open bar concept, even though it's fun and like okay, we can do whatever, there's almost never a case where people are drinking so much that it was worth the expense of paying for that open bar. Now, it's included in a lot of the packages, so like, you go with what you're given, I guess, but if you can swing it, or if you can make that a potential option to say, hey, listen, we don't want to do open bar, we'd rather just go with beer, wine, soda, you're almost always better off.
Now,
Just
what if you are the couple that you're really split 50-50 down the middle? And let's just call it one family versus another, or one set of group of friends versus another and their families, where one side is kind of an alcoholic, okay? Like they really love to put it away. And the other side of the family and group of friends are totally not dry, but almost
they'll have
dry.
one drink maybe,
They'll have one drink. So
yeah.
when you have like a stark contrast in your group, which is better to go with?
I mean, again, that's why I said it depends on the what the other family wants, right? Like, I would defer at that point to the family that actually drinks the alcohol, because they're the ones who are going to consume what it is. So, like for example, if in their case they're not really big beer or wine consumers and they really do want the liquor, then an open bar makes sense, right? Versus if really when we say they're drinking, they're typically drinking beer and wine, then you might be okay with that as an option for everybody. It'll make everybody happy anyway, as long as you've got the varieties that you think might be helpful for them. Most people, you might have a glass of wine, maybe you'll have a couple of beers, a different person will have a couple of beers, but there's some people who are going to want the liquor for sure, but how many of them are we talking about, and is it worth the extra added expense? The expense is one consideration. It's just also like waste wise, like if you don't need it, like you're just spending money to spend money at that point. You know what I mean? But I do think that it's really about the experience your guests should have. So if you have a family that like no, like we're gonna be putting away the liquor all night, and we really I can't imagine having a party where that wasn't an option. Then that, right? Like that that's a thing, and you're gonna make sure that that's part of the experience for your guests. But if it's not the case, and it isn't the case in most weddings that I've seen, people are having one, maybe two, and like if you, there are some people, like I have seen some people start to put it away. Usually it's wedding party members. So to be fair, like if your friends are really into it, like maybe just give them that other, like I said, specialty option that you can add to it if you know that there's like a particular crowd favorite.
Yeah, the wedding party, I have to say, is definitely the guilty party when it comes to this kind of thing. Those people usually tend to be wild. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. They're having fun. They're having a good time with it all, and they're definitely alcohol for sure being part of the thing that's getting sprayed.
oh, I played that sound effect too long, but so I have another question for you.
Yeah,
When it comes to, so we live in the Northeast, in the New York area.
yeah.
Now, is there a huge cost difference from, say, something in the mid Hudson Valley? That's where most of our listeners are probably listening. Hudson Valley, New York tri state area, right? So let's say you get something in the mid Hudson Valley, let's say Beacon, New York, okay? Is a How much more expensive is an open bar in Brooklyn, let's say, as opposed to something in the mid Hudson Valley? Are we
It
talking
all
thousands, a couple of hundred?
No, it really all depends on the space. Like I said, here in the New York area, Hudson Valley region, most venues have a package deal, which means you're getting the catering and the alcohol almost always included as
Okay.
part of your cost. Sometimes they will let you, it depends on the venue, sometimes they will let you opt into particular packages. So if you don't want an open bar, you may be able to scale down to beer, wine, and soda for the full service venue. But almost never are they going to say like cash bar or no bar, right? Like that's almost never happening unless you have a venue that is not full service. Now there are a few, right, that where basically you're bringing everything in. You're bringing in the catering, you're bringing in the drinks and the alcohol if you want to. In those cases, you have more negotiating power, but I haven't seen a huge cost differential in terms of a complete package from location to location. The type of venue that you're having it at may make a difference. So I've seen wildly different prices for one venue versus another, whether you're in New York City or in the Hudson Valley. The prices can get like the differential is not even worth like mentioning
So
because
so
it
it's
gets so
not so it's
wide.
not the difference in geographical location, but more how upscale the venue itself is.
Correct, correct.
Because there are some really nice places in the Hudson Valley, and there are some more budget places in the Hudson Valley.
And there's some really nice places in New York City and some more budget places in New York City. Same goes for New
Yeah.
Jersey and Connecticut as well, right? So I think it just really depends on the type of venue that you are trying to book and what their kind of expected, what's typical for them and for their clients. Now, I've seen some really, really, really expensive New York City venues, but I've also seen some really, really, really expensive Hudson Valley venues. So, like, I can't say that that's the thing that makes the difference. But if you ever look at the breakdown of what you're paying for food versus alcohol, in most cases, what I've found is it's about the same, right? Like, alcohol is costing you as much as the food is costing you. And we already talked about in previous podcasts how food is going to be one of the most expensive things you do. So that's
Yes.
what's making up the pricing, right? And like it makes sense. Like I don't think a lot of people think about it this way, but if you were to go out drinking in this area and you're buying one or two drinks, that could easily cost you 30, 40, $50, depending on where you are, just for those two drinks, right? Like, and so if you imagine now we've said open bar for, 150, 200 people, it's going to cost you a pretty penny on what's happening there. So it's not exactly the same, like, but it's like maybe like a 30% of your costs are going to alcohol, and or 40% of your costs are going to the alcohol, and so it's a lot of money that's going into it, and so you just kind of have to consider, is it worth it for my crowd to have this as an option for them?
Totally. I think that's so helpful for most people. I know when we were getting married, it we had no idea what it costs and why open bar wasn't right for us. But I think we made the right choice, and I think
Yeah.
it really. I know our crowds. I also got married older. I wasn't 27 or even. I wasn't even 37, right?
Right.
So our crowd was a little bit older, a little bit more responsible. So I
Right.
think we knew that, and I think you're right. I think it just goes. It comes back to knowing your crowd and knowing your budget and like what your venue is offering you,
Right.
right?
So taking all that into consideration and making an option, I'm not gonna lie. Like sometimes having the specialty drinks is kind of nice, right? I'm always a big fan of signature drinks for the couples, but after everything is said and done, you just gotta make the experience what you want it to be.
What is the best specialty beverage you've ever seen or tasted?
I'm really bad with names, but there are a couple. I like sweet, so like to be fair, like if you give me something with rum or tequila in it, I'm usually a happy camper.
All right. Well, Martine, this has been great. This has been super informative. There's a lot of things in here that I didn't even know. I'm also not a big drinker, so I think you
Right.
would think I'd be more aware of that. But when I go to weddings in my personal life, I probably have, like you said, one or
One
two.
or two. Yeah.
Even if I'm not the driver, I'm probably still having two the most.
Exactly, exactly, and same
So
for me. So, like, again, everybody's different, and if drinking is part of the thing that you're doing, definitely make sure to include it. But otherwise, take into
yeah,
consideration
I
everything
know in
else
an
that goes
earlier
into it.
episode you talked about like know your priorities, know what type of activities you want. And some people want to drink.
Okay,
You know,
if
they
that's
don't
what you
want to
want,
play. They don't want no
right?
lawn games. They don't want any kind of fun things. They just want to drink, and that's
It's
fine.
and that's it's totally fine. I've seen, like I said, I've seen people be like, "What? No alcohol? Like, I'm not even going to this wedding." And so, like,
Right.
you have to know. You have to know your people. You have to know if that's the thing that they want to do or they want to experience. Do you want to go top shelf or not? Based on your crowd that's coming in, like premium alcohol, or are we okay with like
House.
house
The
house
house stuff.
liquors, house stuff?
Hey, I'm a house guy myself. I am a very cheap drunk. I do not need the best stuff. I'm real easy.
uh, hey, listen, I hear you on that one, and it makes sense. Like you got to just do what's best for you and the crew. So, with that, Jason, I think we will see you on the next one, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
You too, Martine. Bye bye.
Bye.